So in this one, I wanted to talk about ordinary work versus royal work. You probably are familiar with royal law, which is to love God and love your neighbor. The royal law is basically the most important commandments in the Torah. Okay, it is mentioned, I believe, in Peter, and but there is also such thing as royal work, which is basically work that you do for the kingdom. Okay, and it's a really interesting topic. Okay, I want to start with the book of John. That is chapter 5. Okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically it's about when Jesus, Yeshua, was healing on the Sabbath. Okay, he was doing royal work. Okay, it wasn't considered a sin, but the Pharisees considered it as a sin because it broke their ancestry tradition. Okay, you can't do anything. You know, they went as far as preventing people almost from breathing on the Sabbath. Yeah, they went way overboard with their traditions. But here's what happened. So he was healing, and there was this man that couldn't walk. He healed him and told him, "Pick up your mat and walk." And then the Pharisees came to him and to the man that was healed, like, who healed you? It's like, oh, this man Jesus healed me. Oh, you know, it is not lawful for you to be healed and walk with a mat on the Sabbath. It's like, really? Well, and the man told them, well, this is Yeshua, Jesus is the one who healed me. So they went to Jesus and accused him. It's like, what are you doing? You can't be healing on the Sabbath. And here's what Jesus answered to them. Okay, so it's John 5, verse 17. But Jesus answered to them, "My Father has been working until now, and I have been working." Okay, this is a really interesting statement. What kind of a work have they been doing? Well, they've been doing royal work, which was not breaking of the Sabbath. So royal work is similar. It's anything to do with the love of God and the love of your neighbor. So if you have any work that you have to do, or any type of activity that you have to do that is gonna help others, save others, heal others, promote the Father's kingdom, it is not considered a sin. All the work the Father does is for His creation. So that's what Jesus means, that the Father has been working until now. And the Father cannot break His own commandments. That is impossible. That is against His own character. So the type of work the Father has been doing is righteous work, okay? And that's the same type of work Jesus was doing. Jesus was doing royal work. He was doing work that promotes the kingdom. So it is not a sin. So pretty much any type of work that the Father does is royal work, because He's always working for the benefit of His children, of His creation. So that's what Yeshua meant. My Father works and I work. So now it happened that He went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and as they went, His disciples began to pluck the heads of grain. And the Pharisees said to Him, "Look, why do they do what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" But He said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he was in need and hungry? He and those with him, how he went into the house of God in the days of Abiathar the high priest, and ate the showbread, which is not lawful to eat except for the priests, and also gave some to those who were with him. And He said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath." And I hear some people say, well, you see, Yeshua is the Lord of the Sabbath because He made the Sabbath and He's God, so He can break the Sabbath. Well, they don't understand that He wasn't breaking the Sabbath. Where it says He was breaking the Sabbath, He was breaking the Pharisees' law of the Sabbath, not God's law, not the kingdom's law. He was doing righteous work. Okay, so let's get some more about this in Matthew 12. Okay, verse 1. Okay, at that time Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath, and his disciples were hungry. Same thing as in Mark. And then in verse 5, or have you not read in the law that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? So it is interesting that he says this in verse 5. How can they be blameless if they profane the Sabbath? You see, they weren't profaning the Sabbath if they were blameless. The only thing they were profaning is the Pharisees' laws. You know, those are the extra laws that they have in their oral in the Talmud that they added to the Torah. So the priests weren't breaking anything, but he was talking in their language so they'll understand, because he was still trying to get the Pharisees and Sadducees and everyone to understand the true spiritual meaning of working on the Sabbath and keeping the Sabbath, okay, not as they were used to with all these extra laws, right? There's other verses that Jesus gives examples of working on the Sabbath. For example, if you need to save your livestock, okay, we have livestock here, and if I get a chicken that's entangled in some ropes, and it's choking and it's just going to be there and it will not be able to run away from a predator, it's going to die, right? So obviously I'm going to help the bird or the sheep or whatever. You don't want your animals to suffer just because you're keeping the Sabbath. The Father's love for his creation comes first on the priority, okay? He doesn't want us to keep the Sabbath if the result of it is the suffering of his creation. That's why he gave the example. If your a cow falls into a ditch, you're gonna get it out, obviously, because you don't want it to suffer. Same thing with healing people. You don't want people to suffer. That's not the point of the Sabbath. It is insane that they told him that he can't heal on the Sabbath. How far removed were they from the spiritual meaning of keeping that holy day? You can't light fire on the Sabbath, you can't cook and all that. But that's crazy. Again, the lighting of fire is in context of work, of your daily work, okay? Anything that you do during the week that is for your personal gain, okay? And which means, you make money to live by, right? You need money to pay rent, you need money to buy food, to pay utilities and all that. That's ordinary work that you do during the week. Anything beyond that you do for the kingdom is royal work, as I mentioned before. But if you do any type of activity that includes lighting a fire that is not selfish, on the Sabbath, if you haven't had enough preparation and you want to warm up some food, it's fine. The Father doesn't want us to go hungry and suffer on the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not supposed to be a day of suffering and misery. You're not supposed to sit in the cold, right, when it's winter and not light fire and to eat cold food. It's miserable. Take example, priests who were accepting burnt offerings on the Sabbath. How can you make burnt offerings without fire? The only way you can make burnt offerings is if you have a fire-breathing turtle or you light fire. Okay? So obviously lighting fire for kingdom work, royal work, was not considered a sin. I mean, how else could the priests offer sacrifices without lighting fire on the Sabbath? It's quite amazing that the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they didn't understand it. They didn't ask the question, well, how come they light fire on the Sabbath for the burnt offerings, but we can't light fire to feed ourselves, and we have to just eat whatever we prepared the day before? And it is true, we should prepare. The Sabbath, you shouldn't leave the Sabbath day to do all your chores and all your houseworks. You should do that during the week. But if you wash dishes, it's not a sin. Having a filthy house with dishes, piles of dishes, it's not, that's not what the Father wants. But He does want us to do our best to keep it and come to Him in prayer and just rest and enjoy that day with our families. Teach righteousness, do good deeds, help each other, love each other. This is all good royal work. Okay. Now some would say, isn't working in the hospital considered royal work? After all, I help other people and I heal the sick in the hospital. Well, while it's true, you're getting money for it. You're doing work that benefits not only the person you're helping, but also you monetarily. So it is basically considered as both ordinary and royal work. Okay. And it's okay. I mean, some people, they can't keep the Sabbath because of their occupation, such as police officers, soldiers, hospital workers, and many other types of occupations. But that's the whole beauty of it, that we have the blood of Yeshua to cover us when we're not capable or not able to keep the Father's commandments in perfection. That's what it means, that we're no longer under the curse. But that doesn't mean we should ignore the commandments and just keep doing whatever we want to do. Okay? So that's it for this one. Royal versus ordinary work. All right? God bless you. Love you all. And see you next time.